When the fire was finally out, they found David Scully's body in the ruins. His head was missing. It was February 23rd, 1894, and Scully had been living in a farmhouse in Otonabee Township, just outside of Peterborough. He was 66 years old, originally from Scotland, and by most accounts, he was a quiet, well-liked man who kept to himself. He had owned the property for years, but in 1888, he made an unusual agreement with a neighbor named Thomas Torrance Gray. Gray and his wife Hessie moved into Scully's home with their children. In exchange for looking after him, Gray would eventually inherit Scully's property when he died. At the time, there didn't seem to be much of a problem, but Scully wasn't dying. He was healthy, and as the years went by, the arrangement became a source of tension. Then, early in the morning of February 23rd, the Gray children woke up to smoke filling the house. Their mother, Hessie, smashed a window with an axe and got the children outside. Scully was still upstairs. By the time anyone could get close enough to the house, it was already engulfed in flames. The building was destroyed, and when they went through the ruins, they found Scully's burned body. But there was something immediately disturbing about the situation. His head was gone. At first, the death was treated as an accident. There was a coroner's inquest, and the conclusion was that Scully had died in the fire. The Grays collected insurance money, rebuilt the house, and eventually left Ontario for Florida. That might have been the end of it, except people in the area weren't convinced, rightfully so. There had been rumors about the relationship between Scully and the Grays, and there were claims that Hessie had threatened Scully. One particularly disturbing allegation was that she had once threatened to cut off his head. The allegation became important later, but at the time it wasn't enough to turn the death into a murder investigation. For roughly a year, the case just sat there. Then, the rumors refused to disappear. The provincial government eventually sent Detective John Wilson Murray to investigate. Murray started going back through what had happened before the fire. He questioned witnesses, he looked at the agreement between Scully and the Grays, and he began examining the circumstances surrounding the fire and Scully's death. The investigation eventually led Murray to Florida. The Grays were brought back to Peterborough to face charges of murder and arson. What followed was one of the most sensational criminal cases Peterborough had seen. The prosecution argued that Scully hadn't simply died in a house fire. They believed he had been murdered and that the fire had been used to conceal what had happened. But there was a major problem. Scully was dead. His head had never been found, and much of the physical evidence had been destroyed in the fire. The case ultimately went to trial, with the evidence and testimony surrounding the Grays becoming the focus of intense attention. And despite everything that had come out, the question remained the same. Did David Scully die in that fire? Or was the fire started to hide the fact that he had already been murdered? His death was never completely explained. Today, David Scully is buried at Little Lake Cemetery in Peterborough. His grave has a name on it. But more than 130 years later, the circumstances surrounding his death are still one of the strangest murder mysteries in Peterborough's history.